Well, hello, welcome to the farm. You know what we're making today? A delicious summer salad, because you know what? When it is summer and when you have the best of everything that is ready and ripe, a salad always just to me is the perfect thing. It hits the spot because you can use fresh flavors, make it delicious, use from the garden. And today, kind of the centerpiece of it is a delicious boneless pork chop. Now, I don't do always a lot of pork on here, but guess where I am? I am in Iowa, which is a major pork producing state. But the thing is, pork is great because it is a lighter white meat, so it doesn't necessarily have strong flavors and it can pick up a lot of other flavors. And it's lean. So we're gonna start with these nice two boneless pork chops. Now, I like to add, of course, flavor, but what I also like to do with most of my meats is some type of brine. You could do a wet brine where you put them in a salt water solution and let them sit, but instead I always do what? Dry brines. So what a dry brine does is it uses the salt and seasonings and it actually works into the meat. You don't have to have it in water, and it really helps, one, keep it moist when you cook it, but then also add just great flavor and seasoning. So to start, we're gonna mix up a quick little bit of dry brine. This is so simple, but it really does make a huge difference. So I do it a few hours before, obviously I'm gonna make it. And I'm gonna start with some dried garlic, just like a simple dry garlic. And that's because with a dry brine, fresh garlic wouldn't really adhere well. It wouldn't really work with all the other spices we're using. So you kind of wanna just do a dry one. So then I'm gonna do some smoked paprika. Now, I love smoked paprika because if you smell it, it has the most delicious, smoky aroma to it, which to me with meat, obviously, gives you that instant just kind of idea that it has been smoked or slow smoked, and so it's a great way to add some flavor. Next, we want to do salt. Now, salt. Oh, salt. It's one of the things that seems like a lot, but meat needs salt. When you cook at home, you eat so much less salt than you would get in processed foods or eating out, and salt is needed, especially in cuts of meat, to really add some good flavor. So there's our quick dry rub, and we're gonna just start putting it over the meat. And I want it to really adhere, and I want it to adhere to all sides. You can see already that smoked paprika, it adds great color. So unlike just regular paprika, you get, of course, that intense color that's the same, but then you get that like wonderful, intense aroma and flavor with it that is just, you can't beat it. So I'm making sure to do all sides of it. And I'm just gonna do them on this pan, and then I'm gonna set it in the fridge, and we're gonna actually be able to just let it sit in the fridge, and you can do it anywhere from 2 hours. It will do definitely some work in 2 hours. I like to do it at least 4 hours before if I can. And that amount of time actually makes a huge difference with it. So if you can do it for 4 hours, you're gonna really get some great flavor added to it. You're gonna make sure that that seasoning is really worked in there and adds to it. So don't feel bad making sure to rub it all around, get it on the sides even. You can kind of hit them on the pan and make sure they're very well seasoned and you're getting that all over them, because this is really gonna make a huge difference. So if you watch my video, at Thanksgiving I do this with a turkey. I do it with chicken when I make chicken. I do it with all of it. So I'm gonna wash my hand, we're gonna put this in the fridge, but then we'll make the dressing. While the meat is just going through its brine process, which seriously I'm excited about for you to try because it makes such a difference in meat, I'm gonna make the dressing. Now, when I make a dressing, I like to pack it full of flavor, and I really like to make it just delicious and just something that you haven't usually had. So I always use what is in the garden. So right now, I'm gonna use a lot of parsley, and parsley, if you use some of their tender stems, it's okay to use the stem. If you get a little bit more stocky ones, obviously you don't wanna use those. And you're gonna see why I'm not really chopping it here too in a minute. But this is kind of a take on maybe a green goddess or just kind of a different dressing. But then I'm adding tons of basil. Now, in general with herbs, because I get lots of questions on what's the best way to do herbs? Because a lot of times we all grow herbs. We get maybe a big herb garden growing, and then guess what? All of a sudden, everything is blooming. It seems like it's not really growing anymore. You don't have a lot of good leaves to use of the herbs. That's because herbs want to be used continually to keep growing. Once a plant blooms, it just wants to slow down and not work near as hard. So instead of putting all of its energy into the bloom, keep it trimmed, keep using it, and then you will keep getting more herbs. So that's why I use so many, because I think we sometimes skimp or we'll add I'm gonna add like 2 leaves or like a tablespoon of chopped basil. Like, no, I am adding handfuls in good amounts so we get tons of flavor in this. Because that's what's really gonna help make this dressing kind of like next level and just have so much good flavor. So I have in there the parsley, I have in there the basil, and now I'm adding, bear with me, 1 leaf, just 1 leaf of sage. Sage can be really strong, the aroma can be strong, the flavor can be strong. 1 leaf goes a long way in this, and it's gonna lend really well to some nectarines that we're adding to the salad too. So to that, I'm gonna add some garlic. I just always cut off the end of my garlic. There's a little baby clove there. And then I just like to either smash it with the back of my hand, or if you have a large kind of chef knife, you can smash it with that too. But then it comes right out of that husk so easily. It makes it so much easier than having to try to peel it. Nobody got time for that. So to this, I'm gonna add something sweet. Now we could do honey, maple syrup. I like for this to actually use some apricot preserves. Now, if you don't have apricot preserves, you could use some marmalade. You could use, something different, but apricot lends so well to pork that just a little bit of that sweet, tangy apricot flavor, it makes a difference. With any of my dressings, I add some Dijon mustard. It helps emulsify it, but also again, since this is pork, I think it does so well with the flavoring of it. Now, I like to make a creamier dressing, so I'm adding some Greek yogurt. You could add sour cream, but I like, again, that tanginess that the Greek yogurt just really adds, or whatever your favorite yogurt is. Greek yogurt obviously doesn't have as much liquid or water content in it, so to me it works well in a dressing. Some acidity, so we need a little bit of champagne vinegar. I like champagne vinegar just because it has a nice acidity, but it's a little bit lighter and not quite as jarring as others. And then some olive oil. So the olive oil is gonna give you that nice rounded out flavor. It's gonna add some good fat to it that just has a good mouthfeel, but also tastes great. So I'm adding that in there, which again, we don't do maybe quite as much because we do have the yogurt in there, which also kind of works together. So now, this is how I do my dressings, especially when there's something like this, immersion blender. You could use a countertop blender too, but then you don't have to chop anything. So the reason I do an immersion blender, as you can see, it kind of takes all the mess away. It does the work for you. There's no whisking. It emulsifies everything. It pulverizes everything, and it just makes it really nice. So always what you want to do with the dressing, taste it. It's how you know if the seasoning is correct, the sweetness to the tanginess. So just take a little bit. That's great. You know what I did forget though? Salt, and I can tell. So I'm gonna add a little bit of salt. This is why we test it. It just had a little bit, to me, too much of a sweet edge. Actually, I'll just use this now and stir that in. Taste it. Yeah, now it's a dressing. So I'm gonna cover this, put it in the fridge. We're gonna wait for that pork chop to just really brine. Then we're gonna put the salad together, and I think you're gonna be as excited as I am, because it's that good. The meat has dry brined, and what you can see is it has an almost tacky look to it, and that's because the salt actually mixes with the natural juices in that wonderful chop, works with it, actually gets drawn in. It's important here. So we're gonna take it over. I have a skillet that's just been heating slightly. I'm gonna add a little bit of oil. Now here I use a high heat oil, so something that can actually take some of the heat and not just get brown, because sometimes an olive oil can actually get bitter, and you don't want bitter. So I'm using avocado oil, whatever high heat oil you like. And you wanna check and make sure you have, when you wanna sear something and brown it, because we're gonna sear it on both sides, put it in the oven to finish cooking. You wanna make sure, and maybe when your hand within an inch can go for 5 seconds and it's too hot, usually it's about right. So I'm gonna add these beautiful chops. Oh, there it is. You hear that beautiful sear. We're gonna put them in. We're gonna let them brown on both sides and put them in the oven. I turned them once. I like to get this nice crust on them, and it's finished now on the other side too. Don't turn them until they release. When they release from the pan, you know they're well seared, and they're not fully cooked. We just seared them on both sides to get a nice crust. Now I'm gonna put them into the oven, where they're gonna finish cooking more evenly, so they won't overcook, because you don't want them to get dry. You did all that work with brining. You want it to now really just come together. So while those are just baking away, we can start getting the lettuce ready. I want a lettuce for this that's gonna be crunchy and crispy, but not overbearing, nothing too much. So I just like a good romaine lettuce. I like some of the ribs in it. You wanna use a cleaned and washed one, but then I like having those ribs because I think they add just that extra element of kind of heft and crunch, and I like the sweetness they can have. So I spread them out, just chop them pretty simply. Look how beautiful and delicious that is. For this one, I chop them somewhat even, so it's just easier to kind of eat, but I love just the simplicity a romaine can have. And especially because anytime of year you buy it, even if it's not quite fully in season in your area, it still is good. It's like a cherry tomato. It's just always good, and it's always crisp. So I'm gonna add the romaine to the bottom whenever I make a salad, whenever it is. If I can, I will always have it on a platter. I think it presents the salad so much better. It looks better. It just is an easier one to see. And then people kind of eat with their eyes first, so they see that beautiful spread. It doesn't just get all the toppings into the bottom like a bowl would when you toss it. Look how beautiful that is. It's perfect. So as the lettuce is ready, we're gonna also make sure one of the stars of the show, which is nectarines. So it's summer. I love to use any stone fruit or any fresh fruit that I can. And anytime you're doing pork, I think there's something about peaches or apricots, nectarines that work so well with pork. So I love to use what's ready. And I also love how a nectarine, I don't want to take the time to have to peel something if I don't have to. A nectarine has a simple skin that you don't mind eating at a fresh level. You know, if I cook a peach skin in the oven or something, it's easier to eat, but there's something about that fuzziness that doesn't always lend well to every dish. So I'm getting these ready and I'm just having them. And when we take the pork out of the oven, we're gonna just sear these cut sides of them to add a little bit of flavor, a little bit of color, soften them just slightly. Then we're gonna put everything together. We're gonna spread it out on the platter. Guys, it's summer and it's looking fresh and I'm excited. I check the temperature of the chops and pulling them out. I like to always pull them out just slightly under, about 5 degrees under, because guess what? There's so much residual heat in them, like any meat, that they actually finish cooking once they're out of the oven. So I'm just gonna put them onto another plate so they get off the heat. Let them just kind of hang out. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab these nectarines. And we just want them to sear on that hot skillet. So we're gonna add them right to it. Put that flame just on like low, kind of a medium low heat, because I just want them to pick up a little bit of color, a little bit of flavor, and then we can put the salad together. The nectarines have gotten nice and dark. I like them to get that caramelized, look at that beautiful caramelized color on them. It's almost like they would be charbroiled on a grill, which is what I want. It softens them just slightly, gives that intense kind of charbroiled flavor, and picks up even some of the pork, which is what I love, some of those spices that we put on it. So we're gonna let those cool off a little bit. We've been letting the loin just kind of sit and hang out, which it then soaks back in the juices. If you cut it right away, a hot meat of any type, it just kind of wants to let all the juice go out. So what I always like to do when I have a salad like this is dress it a little bit first. So I put some of that dressing right over the top. Look at that beautiful color. It is fresh, it is vibrant, which I love. It smells delicious. Now, dressing is one of those things you have to do to taste. Some people like a lot, some people like a little. I like it maybe more on the side of a little bit lighter dressed, but then you can always put more on. So now we're gonna take one of these chops. Look at them. Guys, I shouldn't have licked my fingers. They taste so good though. I love that great kind of flavor we put on top. So I'm just going through, I'm cutting it kind of thinly because this is a salad. So you don't wanna have to use a knife when you eat a piece of meat. You don't wanna have to, go to a lot of work. You just wanna enjoy it with everything else. So as you're going through, you just wanna kind of have just some nice cuts. Look at the color that's already on it. It just has all that beauty right on it. You can, of course, make this ahead. You can let it cool off completely. It will just kind of hang out. It can hang out in the fridge even. This is what I love about pork. It kind of just picks up all those flavors. It's a nice white meat, which you can see, it's just like perfectly cooked. I'm gonna continue to slice everything up. We're gonna lay it on. This is coming together. It's smelling good. I'm excited. I've assembled kind of all the goodness on here. So we have the beautiful pork, we have the nectarines, kind of cut sides all over. You get some of that char, some of that delicious just sweetness from them. And you know what's nice about searing the nectarines? It softens them just enough, but they're just nice and tender. So I just put on some goat cheese, and I think here goat cheese makes a good just like moment in this, because that is great. It's briny if you like that better. What I like about the goat cheese is it has an earthiness to it, a tang, but then just an intense creaminess. So look at the presentation of this. It's absolutely gorgeous. You get some of that beautiful pork. You have to get a little bit of the lettuce, and Yeah, I'm gonna get some nectarine too, because I think you need all of it together. Guys, when you eat. Okay, let me tell you why I love this. The creaminess of the goat cheese, it just kind of melts with everything, but you get almost that beautiful sweetness from the nectarine that just lends perfectly with the flavors we put on the pork. A little bit of smokiness, really well seasoned with that dry brine we did. Retains so much moisture in that pork. And it's just so tender and beautiful. It's like a light salad and yet a hearty salad. It's great for a lunch. During the summer when it's hot, I will eat this for supper, lunch, whatever it is. It's great to have friends over with because look at it. Like, you can eat this and see beauty, and I'm done. It is so good, and I can't wait for you to try it because that dressing, you're gonna be putting that dressing on every salad you make. So what do I hope you do with this? I hope you make it. 2, I hope you share it around. When you share these videos, yeah, it helps me, but it helps everyone see that this is doable to make good, delicious, seasonal food at home that is healthy, that is wonderful, that is also a beautiful presentation. It's possible because if this Iowa farm boy can do it, I know you all can do it. So enjoy it. Check my website, wiseguy.com, for this recipe. So many other recipes. You can print them off. You can do whatever you need to. And until next time, go grab some nectarines, grab some lettuce, make a great salad.